Broadcasting across California, California's only statewide political show. You're watching The Issue Is.
I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, the issue is President Trump's positive coronavirus test. We'll talk about the political fallout with our panel, about the Supreme Court fight ahead with former Senator Al Franken, but we begin with the medical aspect of this. Dr. Drew Pinsky co-hosts the Fox 11 News special report with me on Fox 11 Los Angeles. He hosts a series of programs on drdrew.com. Dr. Drew, welcome back to the issue is.
Pleasure.
All right, let's talk about President Trump. He's at Walter Reed Medical Center this weekend after posting this message to social media.
I want to thank everybody for the tremendous support. I'm going to Walter Reed Hospital. I think I'm doing very well, but we're going to make sure that things work out. The First Lady is doing very well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will never forget it. Thank you.
So, Dr. Drew, what is the fact that he actually had to go to Walter Reed and is not being treated at the White House? Tell us about his condition.
Yeah.
And what should he expect in the coming days?
Well, he's just going to be monitored very, very carefully. The main thing we monitor at this stage of the illness is oxygen saturation. If he starts desaturating, that's a sign that this inflammatory component of the infection is evolving, something we call the cytokine activation syndrome or the cytokine storm. He's going to get sick. He's in an age group and he's got obesity. He's going to get sick. But I don't think he's going to end up on a ventilator, and I think the aggressive measures by his physicians are going to pay off.
Well, let's talk about some of those measures. I want to put this actually up on the screen, some of the various treatments that he is getting. This is from his doctor. We understand he's on a drug cocktail that's not yet FDA approved. He's actually not taking hydroxychloroquine, despite all of the attention on that drug earlier. Boil this down for those of us that aren't doctors. What does all this mean?
So the first thing is that Regeneron cocktail, which is an antibody directed at the coronavirus spike proteins. That's one thing that all the viruses have, is this one protein on the surface that if you can neutralize, it prevents the virus from being able to spread and proliferate. It's a very good drug. It's looking very good. If they have success with President Trump, you may see this drug used more widely. If you could put that back up again, I'm going to talk about some of the other things. Zinc is another agent that's been thought to be used with hydroxychloroquine. It's shown to be very useful. Vitamin D, low vitamin D is associated with bad outcome. Famotidine is Pepcid, over-the-counter heartburn medication. There were some observations that people did better in a hospitalized setting with the famotidine. Same thing with the melatonin and the aspirin.
Of course, every treatment for this is a little different, Dr. Drew. Let's talk about somebody, though, we know who's a world leader who had this before, who's Boris Johnson, the head of the UK. He got it pretty bad, and he's significantly younger than President Trump, 18 years younger. What should that case teach us about what President Trump's about to go through?
Again, it's hard to really, compare medical age as compared to their chronological age, but they're very similar. They're very similar in terms of their body habitus. They're very similar in terms of their dietary indiscretions. I mean, Boris Johnson, I think, is a good proxy for what we're likely to see with President Trump. And Boris Johnson got quite ill. It got his attention. He's changed his diet now. He's losing weight. I think you might see something similar from President Trump. It'll be interesting. You know, the social media post you just put out, you put up a minute ago, he looked pale. He looked like he wasn't feeling well, though he walked with, reasonable, his stride was reasonable. He has reasonable stamina getting onto the helicopter, but he's going to get sicker. It's just going to happen. That's the nature of this illness.
Well, we wish him and the First Lady well as they battle this. Dr. Drew Pinsky, thanks for being with us.
You bet.
Let's talk about the political fallout from all of this with our panel, two of the top journalists in all of California. Carla Marinucci is a senior writer for Politico's California Playbook, which you can sign up to get emailed every day to you for free. Melanie Mason is a political reporter for the LA Times. Her content is not free, but worth every dime for subscribing. Welcome, ladies. Where to begin this week? Carla, we talk about October surprises. We got this one on October 1st. How does this reshape the race?
I mean, Elex, Donald Trump has to throw his campaign playbook out the window. I mean, he had campaigned around the country at those public rallies, maskless rallies, we might add, on every other issue than his handling of the pandemic. He tried to shift the focus to the economy, to law and order. And when he did mention the pandemic, it was always an upside with regard to vaccine development. I mean, his own infection now ensures that he has been disarmed on that front. focuses the public attention more than ever on how he has handled the pandemic that has now hit 7 million Americans. I mean, it brings front and center his record, his treatment of and seriousness of the virus.
Well, Melanie, let's show some of those comments. On the debate stage just this week, he basically mocked Joe Biden for his mask wearing, and he's mocked reporters in the past over the issue of mask wearing as well. Let's take a look.
I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen.
You're going to have to take that off, please. You can take it off. Can you take it off because I cannot hear you?
I'll just speak louder, sir.
Okay, because you want to be politically correct. Go ahead.
That was with Jeff Mason from Reuters, who joined us here on the show not too long ago. The irony of this, Melanie, now is that the Trump campaign, which has complained so often that Joe Biden was locked in a basement, is now keeping the president off the campaign trail, and Joe Biden is able to go and campaign.
Exactly. It's this bizarre reversal of fortunes. And I think that one of the other things I just want to add to Carla's very smart comments, the reason why this is so volatile is because of how many things this touches. It's not just the horse race of the presidential race. We have implications for the Supreme Court nomination. We have implications for national security when it comes to continuity of government. So we're talking about a real news tornado, for lack of a better term. And I think that it has such wide-reaching implications across the board, and that's what makes this feel so volatile.
And Melanie, let's drill down on what you're talking about with the Supreme Court nomination. There's some suggestions that Amy Coney Barrett has actually already had coronavirus in the past, but she was meeting with some senators that have tested positive. Is it possible that that hearing is delayed?
I think that's an open question. We've seen Senator Mitch McConnell say that he does not want to delay the proceedings. But the truth is that we have had now several positive COVID tests coming out of her announcement ceremony in the Rose Garden over the weekend. And so you have people like Utah Senator Mike Lee, who says that he tested positive. The president of Notre Dame, who attended this ceremony, tested positive. And so now I think that there is widespread implications for the Senate, which, remember, a lot of their members are in this high-risk territory. We're talking about a lot of seniors here.
A lot. And of course, obesity also a big risk factor as well. Carla, let's talk for a moment about where does Joe Biden go from here? He's built so much of his campaign attacking President Trump. Just as last week, he called him the worst president ever, a clown, a liar. So can you still do that sort of thing when the president is sick?
You know, I think we saw Joe Biden and his wife Jill immediately come out, suggest their prayers for President Trump, have a very empathetic theme when this was first announced. I think you're going to be waiting for Trump to do the same. At this point, Biden has only to keep it on the issues, and the pandemic now is the issue, how it's being handled. I think you're going to see that from Joe Biden, and I think a lot of interest is going to be on the next debate and how this is handled. If it's even going to come off, Elex, in person, this could be a virtual debate, depending on how it goes. And Trump needs that debate very much to sort of undo some of the damage he did in the last one. At this point, do no harm should be the watchword for the Biden campaign.
Up next, a preview of next week's debate featuring California's senator. But as we go to break, a reason to smile on a tough week. This TikTok video right there of a man on a skateboard with his Ocean Spray cranberry juice and Fleetwood Mac's Dreams has gone so viral that it tripled the sales of Dreams this week. This song from the 70s trending on the charts. Loving this guy's lip sync. Very nice. A reminder to check out our website, theissueisshow.com. You can download our podcast there, watch past episodes featuring Carla and Melanie. Also send us an email. We'll be right back as we jam to Dreams.
Let me ask you, who are you picking, man?
I'm gonna invoke my Fifth Amendment right, sir, not to answer any questions.
This week, among the virtual fans at the NBA Finals, Shaquille O'Neal sitting virtually next to Barack Obama. The former president highlighting poll workers, encouraging people to vote. The big fella pressing the prez on his thoughts about that Trump-Biden debate.
There's a certain level of decency, honesty, responsibility, treating people with dignity and respect that we should expect out of any leader, right? And if you don't see that out of somebody, then that's something that should be on your minds when you go to the polls.
As a huge Lakers fan, Shaq fan, politics fan, there's a lot I love about this clip, but Pau Gasol in the Kobe jersey is especially great. Go Lakers in the finals. As we bring back our panel, Politico's Carla Marinucci, the LA Times' Melanie Mason. It's easy to forget we actually had a presidential debate this week. That was this week. Next week, we have a vice presidential debate with California Senator Kamala Harris versus Vice President Mike Pence. Carla, you have covered Kamala Harris for like 15 years now. You've dealt with her in every capacity. She's been in California government. What can we expect from her, and what do you think people in the country might see from her that you know so well?
Look, I think Kamala Harris is going to have to walk the tightrope that women have to walk in these performances. I mean, a lot of people say women have a tougher challenge in these debates. If they're too aggressive, that's not viewed well. If they're not, they're seen as a pushover. Kamala Harris has this conversational quality many times that really works in her favor, but that may be too low key. She also has that prosecutorial tone to her. That is going to be her challenge, is to navigate those two and to work with Mike Pence. I mean, I think he may be underestimated. Remember, people thought he would be killed in that debate with Tim Kaine. He was not. He did very well. So, at this point, this is going to be a contest to see whether she can capitalize on what was really seen as Biden's kind of win in the last debate. She's got to navigate the tone, and that is going to be her biggest challenge, Alex.
Melanie, before this, there was already some questions about Joe Biden's age and health. Now, obviously, renewed questions about President Trump's health. That's got to make this debate mean even more, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we are talking about a debate of two people where all of a sudden the question about continuity of government has become all that much more relevant. And both of them are younger than their respective running mates. Kamala Harris significantly so. And in fact, that was seen as a benefit, is sort of injecting some youth to the ticket. And I think that Harris has some very high expectations going into this debate, in part because she has done so well in debates in the past. Remember that one of her best debate outings was actually when she went in on her now running mate, Joe Biden, in that first Democratic presidential debate. But I think the thing that people also have to keep in mind is that she also turned in some not so great debate performances. And so I think there is an expectation, as Carla said, that perhaps she outmatches Pence. But I think that she is probably not approaching it that way, and viewers should do so at their own peril. I think the expectations game is going to be the thing she has to manage.
Republicans say they're full steam ahead on confirming Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court. Up next, we're going to talk to former Senator Al Franken about that fight ahead in his old committee. But first, and we want to get the ladies involved with this, some music inspired by the Latin Grammys. This week, the Latin Grammy nominations were released. This song featuring several nominated artists, including J Balvin. All right, ladies, as we go to break, your opportunity to dance. Welcome back. This week, we recorded an exclusive interview with former Minnesota Senator Al Franken before the president's diagnosis with coronavirus. Franken questioned Amy Coney Barrett when he was a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Well, now Franken is the host of the Al Franken podcast. You can listen to our full conversation with him on the Issue Is podcast. But here's part of our discussion this week with Al Franken. So you really poured through her record for that experience, got a chance to talk with her. What did you learn about her in that process that you think all of us should know now as she goes forward?
She's an extreme ideologue. She, in 2006, signed on to something saying that life begins at fertilization and it should be a crime to destroy a fertilized egg from an in vitro fertilization clinic. She's also clearly going to unravel the Affordable Care Act, which is something I think every American should care about. I mean, they would unravel all the protections that are in the Affordable Care Act. And that's what the Republicans have been trying to do. And Trump doesn't know a thing. This is part of the reason he was yelling during this whole campaign and interrupting. He doesn't know anything. Remember when healthcare didn't pass and he said, who knew healthcare was complicated? Remember he said that? Elex? Yeah. Everybody knows it's complicated except you.
Yeah.
That's another line.
Well, we know you wrote a book called Giant of the Senate, which was a bit tongue-in-cheek in the title, but it's a great book if those want to read it.
And number one New York Times bestseller, one of my 4.
Yeah. We got another one here. The Truth is one of them. I've bought your books over the years. So, Giant of the Senate. You know the Senate rules. And one of the most important rules is you either have the votes or you don't have the votes. Republicans seem to insist right now that they do have the votes to get Amy Coney Barrett across the finish line. If you're a Democratic senator, is there anything you can really do to stop this from happening?
There's nothing procedurally we can do. We can make it very hard for them to do it. We can make them pay a price. We can make them think twice about it.
There are a lot of Democrats that think if the Democrats win control of the Senate, that there should be more Supreme Court seats added. Do you agree with that?
I think we should very definitely look at that. This will be they will have stolen 2 seats.
Are you worried, though, about the potential Pandora's box of if you do start adding seats that if the Republicans then take over, they could do the same, and then we just have a bunch of extra Supreme Court justices, which makes that body even more political than it already is?
The problem is that if you trace this back, it goes really back to Mitch McConnell in 2009 saying, my goal is to make Barack Obama a one-term president. And then filibustering, he filibustered more executive appointees than had been filibustered in the entire history of the United States before that. Mitch McConnell is a cynical person who only seems to care about power. And at a certain point, you either have to respond in kind or just let them roll over you. And I think it's time that we respond.
Interesting. Let's talk for a moment about you. Tell us a little bit about your podcast and what you're working on now and sort of what's next for you.
Well, I really enjoy my podcast. A lot of people are listening to it. It's called the Al Franken Podcast.
How'd you figure that one out?
I saw the word eponymous.
Okay.
and so it is it's pathetic to have a podcast. There's like 1 million podcasts, but actually we're getting a good listenership. In fact, when I first started this, I was thinking of doing just a podcast about cuts of meat, but I saw that there were 12 podcasts just about brisket. So instead, I'm doing politics and other, I do it once a week.
This is going to be part of the Issue Is podcast, and I think my Jewish mother has listened to some of those brisket podcasts as well. So.
Some of them are really good.
Really good. I mean, can't go wrong with brisket. I guess you can if you don't listen to
brisket. Go to My Mother's Brisket.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a great podcast.
We love to have a little bit of fun because this is such heavy topics, and we like to get to know our guests a little better. We do a little game called Personal Issues. This is where we put 30 seconds up on the clock. We get to know you a little bit better. Okay? You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Are we all ready? Here we go. What's the meal that you cook the most?
Linguine and clam sauce.
Who is your favorite comedian?
Wow. Won't say.
Who's your favorite conservative?
I have a lot of friends. My favorite conservative. David Frum.
What's your favorite song?
Althea by the Grateful Dead.
And a favorite TV show?
The Ding Show.
Okay, and last question.
Okay, you want to do my favorite show? Okay, yeah. Last question.
Who is your role model?
Wow, Paul Wellstone. Paul,
former Minnesota senator.
Yeah, he said he was so great, and people in Minnesota reelected him. Very often they disagreed with him, but they knew he stood for that. When he said something, he believed it, and he said something that's so profound and so simple, which I really firmly believe so much, which is we all do better when we all do better.
Well, we were going to end there, but we want to also end
good ending
with a little bit of music, because we always like to play music. And I know you're a big Deadhead, so I'm playing one of my favorite Grateful Dead songs, which is Truckin'. That we're going to go to commercial break with this. This is our chance to groove out a little bit and dance and do whatever as we say goodbye and thank you to Senator Al Franken. Thank you for coming on The Issue Is. Really appreciate you sharing your views.
Elex, keep trucking. Thank you.
Keep trucking to you. We'll be back, our panel, after this.
Heroes and needle and flashing my kids on me.
Please welcome Pete Buttigieg. The last time Pete Buttigieg was on our show, we had a huge crowd at USC, and we shook hands. Well, next week, he'll join us via Skype from his kitchen. Also coming up, the most powerful Republican in the House, Kevin McCarthy of Bakersfield, will be with us as well. Quite the show next week. We should have analysis of the VP debate, assuming that it happens. Speaking of the vice president, he's featured in the newest trailer for Borat 2. Let's end this week with a laugh. Thanks to Sacha Baron Cohen. Our thanks to him. Our thanks to you for watching The Issue Is. We'll see you next time.
What is more dangerous, this virus or the Democrats?
Democrats.
It remains low. As the president said yesterday, we're ready for anything.
Michael Penis, I brought the girl for you.
Borat's subsequent movie film